All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Amanda. I am the captain of this great spaceship for the next year, the president of the Weavers Guild, and I'm surrounded by folks who have worked incredibly hard to bring you this strategic plan that we're looking forward to sharing with you tonight. And I would say equally, if not more exciting for tonight is kind of hearing about your perspectives and getting some of your feedback. So we'll just take a little bit of time to walk through what the plan involved, including the process, what the priorities turned out to be, and then a little bit about how you can get involved, and then spend an equal amount of time in smaller breakout sessions so that we can get your feedback, your ideas, and really help us bring this whole strategy to life. And then we'll close, we'll get you out of here by 8 Central with a request for how to support us in the mission going forward. So any questions or comments before we jump in? All right. Well, I think we've all talked about strategy and tactics and whatnot before, but let's just level set on what is a strategic plan. The truth is, it's really just a way to prioritize. There's a ton of different things that we could be doing, but we really want to be able to focus our energy and our resources and ensure that everybody is working towards a common goal. It defines a little bit about how to get to where we want to be in terms of our organization, who we serve, and why we're here. In order to ensure that we were gathering the right information, we reached out to folks in the membership community as well as some of our partners to ask them what their perspectives were for the next 4 or 5 years. And we got some wonderful feedback from them, summarized a little bit for you here today. We learned, or confirmed, I should say, that the Weavers Guild really is a critical resource and a connector for all of us, and that the knowledge sharing is incredibly important as part of that process. And we confirmed also that we have some really powerful strengths within our guild, our commitment to the mission being at the top of the list. The fact that there's some really unique resources and focus for our guild, the idea that the folks who work here, who volunteer, and those who educate are incredibly passionate about our craft, and that the educational programming is absolutely top quality and is truly important for the ongoing success of our guild. One of the other things that we gathered a lot of feedback around was the energy regarding how weaving is something that is across our culture, and it's something that was so important for us, weaving, spinning, and dyeing, that we really wanted to call it out as sort of a guiding compass for all of what we do going forward, with the acknowledgement that every immigrant, migrant, and Indigenous community within Minnesota, they all have rich texture, cultures, traditions, and histories that we want to be able to celebrate. So we thought about how we can best do that. Well, first and foremost, it was important for us to identify our physical and virtual spaces and make sure that they're accessible for those who want to learn and practice these arts, and welcoming anybody who's interested to the table. Further, we wanted to celebrate and reflect on the many past, present, and evolving weaving, spinning, and dyeing cultures that exist here in Minnesota so that they can continue to thrive and grow. Last but not least, really being a hub for artisans, craftspeople, and new learners to be able to share these artistic and technical skills within and across our cultures, whether it be Scandinavian, Karen, and everything in between. So with the guiding compass at the center of what we would consider this triangle for our strategic priorities, there were 3 primary things that we wanted to focus on: talent, financial sustainability, and data and technology. We put together this framework. It's a 1-pager. You'll see it at the end of our board decks. And it's just a good way to be able to summarize the entire vision that we have, at the top of which is truly our mission of preserving and advancing the arts of weaving, spinning, and dyeing, and acknowledging that we do have an important mission to be member driven. We just talked about the DEAI guided compass, which is included here as well. And then all of that sits on top of what our strategies will be. And we'll get into more details for each of these strategies in just a moment. But when we think about talent, we really want to consider the outcomes of that, which would be satisfaction for our talent development as well as retention. And then for ensuring financial sustainability, it's really about investing in those strategic priorities. And last but not least, being able to leverage data and technology to set us up for success and growth. And that means being able to better understand and prioritize the data and technology needs. So we have a lot that we need to do. We needed to focus a couple of things for this next year. On the talent side, it's really about having a creative and positive and a positive and inclusive environment and being able to invest in our future. And we'll talk more about that when it relates to processes, new hires, curriculum, et cetera. For financial sustainability, it's how do we ensure that all the things that we're thinking about in our annual plan are truly focused on our strategic priorities, that they're all aligned there, and then understanding how the different ways we generate revenue can help us reach our overall goals and making sure that we're pulling those levers appropriately. As it relates to data and technology, there's a lot that we could do there, but first is really better understanding what our needs and opportunities are, and then focusing on those that are going to have the highest impact, and then being able to fund those and quite candidly being able to staff them so that we can get the most benefit. So I know this was a lot. And so let's kind of wind back a little bit and talk about them in more detail and give you a couple of examples so that you can connect more with it. I would say our most important piece, which is why it's priority number one, is talent. It's optimizing our talent model to ensure stability and growth. Well, first we need to define talent, right? So that's staff, it's volunteers, it's the instructors and the board. We all work together to make this place wonderful. We need to ensure that regardless of where we are within talent, be it staff, volunteers, instructors, or board, that each and every one of them feels supported, developed, empowered, and fulfilled. Some examples of focus areas include developing the instructor training curriculum that will help us generate this talent pipeline so that we always have this continuous flow of great educational resources for our members and the greater community. That means also developing staff, including evaluating the staffing needs and making sure that they're not overworked. And then being able to develop volunteer and board training. So what are some examples of this? First and foremost, we need to make sure that our staff have the opportunity to actually take their time off every year. We need to have development plans set and executed every year. We want to secure funding for a new staff member, which we did. We can already check that one off the list as something that we got approved from the board last month. And then ultimately get that new person hired, which we're aiming for the early part of next year. So there's a really concrete examples of how we can support our talent and make sure that they have what they need to be successful. All of this comes, of course, with an eye to the bottom line, ensuring that we are very diligent in how we spend our financial resources and creating this level of financial sustainability that will allow us to make investments in the areas that are most important for our continued success and growth. That means maintaining consistent and predictable and sufficient revenue. And I'll tell you, in the last couple of years, that's been really hard to do. The whole world has changed. And I'm remarkably impressed at how careful and thoughtful the Guild has been about ensuring that we can weather these really difficult storms. We also need to be able to prioritize the revenue generation, which means taking into account what available resources we have, what's the external environment. Clearly, COVID was a big one this last couple of years, and what it is the members are needing and wanting from us. So the focus areas would be implementing an annual plan that again aligns with the strategic plan, that we ensure that we have financial resources to fund those strategic initiatives, whether they be tech solutions, equipment, et cetera, and then be able to ultimately develop and implement strategies to meet our diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility goals. So what are some examples? Well, the first is ensuring that we have the strategic revenue goals established, but then also be able to achieve them. So these really measurable results. And that our goals that we set for the strategic initiatives are fully funded, be it staff, technology, et cetera. So while we're talking about technology, this is a really big one. It really is going to start with better understanding what is possible, but our goal is to be able to develop and implement data and technology strategies that ensure our growth, our stability, and our innovation. So those could be systems that streamline our guild processes, those that advance things like equity and inclusion goals, and also allow for innovation in both programming as well as in services. We can improve the efficiency of the guild operations and ensure continued delivery of that which is relevant, accessible, and high quality in terms of services. It's also important for us to be able to easily provide data so that we can do some thoughtful analysis and make informed decisions about how we want to spend our resources going forward. To that end, our first and foremost focus is to evaluate opportunity areas and needs within the guild operations and programming. After we have a better understanding of what those needs are, then we can start evaluating some technology solutions that might help us through. The biggest part, though, after even we fund it, is implementing, because as we all know, technology doesn't solve everything unless we can implement it in a way that really is going to work for us. Okay, so what are some outcome examples? Well, let's build a roadmap. Let's list out all the things that could be of service to us and outline them kind of year by year, and then focus on the things that are going to be most relevant and impactful first. So an example of something that could be really impactful soon would be the ability for our staff to get data out of our systems faster. They spend a lot of time pulling information very manually in order to do things like apply for grants. Well, if we can reduce the amount of time necessary to do that, that frees them up to do other things, or maybe even allows us to apply for more grants in the same amount of time. Another example is to be able to target specific student outreach that will connect students, potential students, with the right classes and ultimately drive more revenue there. So those are some really concrete examples of how we can apply our strategic plan in pretty short order. I know it's a lot, but we have a lot of really big vision here, and I want to share with you what it might look like if we can achieve that vision. Imagine, if you will, programs that showcase the techniques, the traditions, and practices of the past, present, and the future communities in the state that we live. Guild membership that reflects the breadth of makers, fiber artists, and practitioners. Having opportunities for members that strengthen the connections and we get to know each other in respectful and meaningful ways. Having greater efficiency within our operations, that we have brought our technology and our systems up to date and we've reduced the burden on our staff and committees. And that we have a culture that strengthens a member partner participation in the Guild, that each and every one of you feels empowered to contribute and that you feel supported and valued within your efforts. So those are pretty lofty goals, but I think with our strategic plan and with your help, we can get there. I'm sure you have a lot. This was a ton to give you in just 15 minutes. But I really think it's good for us to talk a little bit more about this. We want to break into smaller groups, and I'd love for you to contemplate a couple of things. And then at the end, probably like 10 minutes to 8 or so, we'll pull the group back together to close. But I'd ask each of you to contemplate and then talk in your small groups about 2 questions and whatever else might be on your mind, questions you have about the plan, et cetera. But I'd ask you to consider what excites you about the strategic plan. And how do you see yourself involved in making the vision, the values, and the priorities of the plan a reality? All right. Karen, you're smiling at me. Are we good to go?
Yeah, we're ready to open the rooms. Has everyone written down the questions so they know what they're asking? That's what I'm doing right now.
Great idea. So what excites you and how do you see yourself getting involved?
Great.
Great.
Let's go to the rooms. We've set up 4 rooms, so there'll be about 10 people in each room. We have kind of people to take notes and do a little bit of the question initiation. So there'll be a room with Amanda, who just spoke, our board president, Linda Serrano, our board president from last year, and then Betsy Conup, our education manager, and then I'm Karen Knudsen, and I'll do the other room. So let's join each other in small rooms.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Well, we are very prompt. Hey, Joe. And I think everybody got muted coming back in here.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. Look at all those smiles. I'm loving this. Somebody had some great conversations, maybe ending on a joke or something. All right. I'm not seeing, well, hold on. Do we have everybody? It looks like we do. Got 3 pages of smiling faces. Look at that. Awesome. All right. Well, I sure hope that you enjoyed your breakout session, had some great conversation, did some brainstorming, and maybe answered any of the questions that you might have had. Looks like we're just wrapping up, bringing everybody back. Karen, does it look like we have everybody? Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and show my screen again. All right. Wanted to just end with, first and foremost, a thank you for your participation today, and then to ask for your support. We really want to bring our strategic plan to life. We are all very passionate about our guild, and we're hoping for your help. And we can start by simply sharing what you've learned here today with other members. I know that in my breakout session, we talked a little bit about how we're all hungry for more information about what's going on in the guild. So please reach out and share what you've learned. We also have a new president-elect, which we're super excited about, but it happens to be our secretary. So we're looking for a backfill for our secretary starting in December and going through the end of this fiscal year, which will be August. So if you're interested in joining the board, this is a great way to get involved. And it's pretty turnkey, I have to say. The Linda and Lisa did a great job kind of creating a really straightforward way of delivering the secretarial duties every month. You can also join a task force. We talked a little bit about technology and data. Those are the first couple that are getting kicked off. So if you have a passion for data, or if you have a passion for technology, feel free to reach out to us at the Guild. You can just send an email to the info at theweaversguild.mn.org. We also have some short-term projects that might be of interest to you. One is the annual, or not the annual, it is the annual audit for ADA compliance, so that we have a better understanding of our physical spaces and how accessible they are. And then also some program research, whether it be global weaving, spinning, and dyeing practices and practitioners in Minnesota. If any of these things are, passion projects for you, please reach out. Or if there's other ways that you're thinking you want to get involved and they're not on the screen, still love to have you reach out. And just really grateful for your time. So I will say a thank you and really appreciate your time. Feel free to download the plan from your website if you haven't already seen it. I think it might have been emailed out as part of this. And then always look for new ways to connect with us in the draft. Any questions or comments before we break? All right, well, I will stop this picture so that I can look at your smiling faces again. All right, well, I appreciate your time today. I wish you all a lovely night, and I look forward to seeing all of you again soon. Take care, everybody.